This is the Wealth Matrix Crossroads YouTube channel. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into a massive question. Seriously, it's one that shapes the lives of literally billions of people.
Why are some places so wealthy while others just struggle? You might think, oh, it's culture or politics or history, right? But what if the biggest answer, the most powerful one, has nothing to do with people at all, but with the planet itself?
It's wild, but the answer might be hiding right there in plain sight, just on a map of the world. So let's get into it. The data is, well, it's pretty stark. Wealthy nations tend to be clustered up in the temperate north. In fact, there are only two tropical economies. We're talking about the city-states of Singapore and Hong Kong that are actually considered high income. Now, this is not a coincidence, folks. It's a really deep pattern, and it demands an explanation. And honestly, that pattern is the central mystery we're going to unravel today.
Okay, so this question isn't exactly new. People have been noticing this gap for centuries. But there was this one moment, this one encounter, that really sharpened the focus. We're talking about the 1970s, when a New Guinean politician named Yali asked a really powerful question to the geographer Jared Diamond. Now, when he said cargo, Yali was talking about all the stuff, the manufactured goods, the technology, everything that Europeans seem to have in abundance. And Jared Diamond's journey to answer that simple yet incredibly deep question, well, it led him to a totally groundbreaking theory. And for us, that's our first big clue in this whole mystery. So Diamond's big idea wasn't about the people. It was about the very shape of the land. See, the Eurasian landmass is kind of special. It's really wide, stretching way more east to west than it does north to south. And why does that matter? Well, think about it like this. A crop like wheat, first domesticated in the Middle East, could spread like wildfire all the way to Europe and into China, because the climate is pretty much the same along that line of latitude. Now flip that. Look at the Americas, or Africa. They're oriented north to south. A crop from, say, Mexico would have an almost impossible time trying to cross the hot tropics to find a similar climate down in South America. This was a massive head start in farming. It was the absolute game changer. It meant bigger populations, extra food, and that lets some people stop farming and become inventors or soldiers or rulers, all happening way, way before other parts of the world had a chance to catch up. And that head start in farming, it wasn't just a one-time bonus. It created this cascade of advantages that just kept rippling through the centuries. But, latitude isn't just about how easily crops can spread. It's really a stand-in for climate. And climate has these huge ongoing effects on everything from how productive you can be, to your health, to how a society develops. So here's the key takeaway. Living in a temperate zone gives you all these benefits that stack up on top of each other. You've got frost cycles that actually make the soil better. The burden of diseases like malaria, which just drain productivity, is way lower. And frankly, the local plants and animals were just easier to domesticate. Now compare that to the tropics. You're dealing with intense weather, tons of diseases that hit not just people, but also livestock. Think about the tsetse fly, which made raising cattle next to impossible in huge parts of Africa. And overall, your farms just aren't as productive. It really is like trying to run a race with weights tied to your ankles. And, this whole Eurasian advantage, it had a really dark side. Because people there lived so close to their domesticated animals, they built up immunities to diseases like smallpox. So later, when Europeans started exploring the world, those germs came with them and just wiped out populations in the Americas that had zero natural defense. A totally grim advantage, for sure. But the influence of geography doesn't stop with germs and crops. Let's shift gears and look at another huge factor. Something as simple as having access to the sea. Yeah, being cut off from the ocean, it's a massive, massive challenge. Research actually shows that being a landlocked country slaps you with about a 1.5% penalty on your economic growth every single year. Now, 1.5%, that might not sound like a lot, right? But think about it this way. Imagine two companies. One grows at 4% a year, the other at just 2.5%. Fast forward 50 years, and the first company is more than twice as big. That's the brutal power of compounding. So for a landlocked country, this means everything is more expensive to transport, you're completely at the mercy of your neighbor's politics, and you're basically cut off from the main artery of global trade. And it gets worse. Topography, mountains, just adds another whole layer of difficulty. So if you're not just landlocked, but also super mountainous, the challenges just multiply. You need more bridges, more tunnels, all this complex, expensive construction just to build a road or a railway. This jacks up the cost of everything and can isolate economies even more.
making it that much harder and pricier to connect with the rest of the world. So, okay, when you look at all this evidence stacked up, from the literal shape of the continents down to the cost of pouring asphalt for a road, it's really easy to start thinking that where you're born pretty much decides your economic fate. It paints a pretty bleak, deterministic picture, doesn't it? But is that really the whole story? Is our prosperity just pre-written by the lines on a map? Well, the answer is a pretty firm no. Think of it this way. Geography might set the stage, but it's human ingenuity that writes the play. I mean, just look at the exceptions that prove the rule. You've got Singapore, right? A tiny tropical island with basically zero natural resources. It literally willed itself into becoming a global financial powerhouse. And how did they do it? Through the power of good institutions. We're talking about the rule of law, a stable government, and absolutely zero tolerance for corruption. And then there's technology. Technology has been a huge equalizer. Air conditioning made hot climates workable. Modern medicine is tackling those tropical diseases. Global shipping can connect even the most remote places. And hey, sometimes what's under the ground is way more important than what's on top. Take Botswana, a landlocked country in southern Africa. It used its diamond wealth to build one of the most stable and prosperous economies on the entire continent. They proved that a geographic curse can absolutely be overcome. So look, we absolutely can't ignore the powerful hand geography plays. But it's not an economic prison sentence, not at all. Technology, trade, and just good governance can unlock potential pretty much anywhere. And that leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. In our super connected digital world, how much did these ancient handcuffs of latitude and landscape really still control our fate? All right, let's do a quick recap of everything we've covered. We started by seeing that crazy strong correlation between a country's wealth and how far it is from the equator. Then, we dug into how the unique east-west shape of Eurasia gave those societies a massive head start with farming, which kicked off a chain reaction that shaped all of history. After that, we saw how things like climate, disease, and just the bad luck of being landlocked create these huge, compounding disadvantages over time. But, and this is the big but, we also learned that geography is not destiny. With smart institutions, powerful technology, and savvy resource management, places like Singapore and Botswana have shown the world that you can rewrite the script. Geography might set the stage, but it sure doesn't have to write the final act. If you found this whole explainer valuable, we'd love it if you'd subscribe to the channel Wealth Matrix Crossroads. Go ahead and give this video a like and maybe share it with someone you know who's curious about these big hidden forces that shape our world. Thanks so much for watching.